Welcome to Coin Jive. And, I was thinking about the idea of stewardship and what all that means. And we often think about it in terms of biblical stewardship. And that really is the gold standard of the idea. But I wanted to start out by defining stewardship in a general sense and then get into biblical stewardship. Stewardship is the careful and responsible management of something that has been entrusted to one's care. And this can be applied to anyone's life because things are entrusted to our care, whether that be at our jobs or at home with our children or with our families or with gifts that we have or talents that we have or any other responsibility that life gives us. And it's important that we manage these responsibilities with good stewardship. In this life, we have been trusted and entrusted with many things. God has entrusted us with our very lives, our bodies, our families, our children, our finances, and even our own thoughts. All of these things we must be good stewards of. It is our responsibility as servants of God to be faithful servants of everything that He has given us. And I mentioned even our thoughts. And that's something that many people do not apply the idea of stewardship to, is their thoughts. But we must be good stewards of our own thoughts as well. I would like to start the discussion with a long Bible passage, but it's an important one, and then we're going to talk about what it means and why it's important. It's the story of talents in Matthew 25:14 through 30. For the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country, who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his own ability. And immediately he went on a journey. Then he who had received the 5 talents went and traded with them and made another 5 talents. And likewise he who had received 2 gained 2 more also. But he who had received 1 went and dug in the ground and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of those servants came and settled the accounts with them. So he who had received 5 talents came and brought 5 other talents, saying, Lord, you delivered to me 5 talents. Look, I have gained 5 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. He also who had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, you delivered to me 2 talents. Look, I have gained 2 more talents besides them. His Lord said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Then he who had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. And I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Look, there you have what is yours. But his Lord answered and said to him, You wicked and lazy servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. So you ought to have deposited my money with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received back my own with interest. So take the talent from him, give it to him who has 10 talents. For everyone who has will be given and have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the unprofitable servant into the outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. These are very harsh words, and from them we can see that God is very serious about us making something of ourselves. We can see that if he entrusts something to us, he is very serious about us making good use of those things. God fully expects that whatever it is that he gives us, we will make use of it and multiply it. One of my favorite sayings is, your talent is God's gift to you. What you do with that talent is your gift back to God. Whatever it is that God gives to us, if we neglect making use of it and multiplying it, then we are not giving back to God the dividends of what he entrusted us with. And then Peter says in 1 Peter 4:10, as each one has received a gift, minister it to one another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. And then Paul says in 2 Corinthians 9:6-7, but this I say, he who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and he who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. So let each one give as he purposes in his heart, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loves a cheerful giver. And we can see here that we are exhorted to not only make use of the talents, but to do so cheerfully as to God. In Colossians 3:23-24, we read, and whatever you do, do it heartily, as to the Lord and not to men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the reward of the inheritance. For you serve the Lord Christ. We must carefully guard the way in which we make use of these talents. We must not use them foolishly, but use them wisely. In Ephesians 5:15-17, we read, see then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Therefore do not be unwise, but understand what the will of the Lord is. And if we do not live up to our obligations of being good stewards, Paul tells us what we can expect in Romans 14:12. So then, each of us shall give account of himself to God. And as we saw in Matthew 25, God does hold us accountable, and we will have to give account to him when that day comes of everything that we have done. So stewardship is a serious obligation. God was good enough to trust us with the blessings that he has given to each one of us, and he holds us accountable to make appropriate use of these blessings and do so with a cheerful heart. So don't see it as a burden that God has given you something and now you're obligated to work hard because of it, but rather see it as a wonderful opportunity to give back something to God. Like I said earlier, my favorite saying is, your talents are what God, or are a gift that God gave to you, and what you do with those talents are the gift that you give back to God. So let's give back to God. After all, he gave us so much. And that's what I was thinking about today. I hope you join us for the next Coin Jive when we are thinking about something else.